a certain $9,000 sweater by Loro Piana, a brand I heard of 3 days ago.
Part of LVMH.
Part of LVMH. No, it's within the LVMH of the LVMH portfolio.
Yeah.
And they make really, I'm going to be real with you guys, fucking ugly, boring looking clothing.
Yeah, it'll be like I was just said this, but I'm going to repeat it. It's like a navy half zip that a private equity manager buys and wears in the heli to the Hamptons.
Yeah, it's like and I know I'm head to toe right now.
Yeah.
But like I think I'm dressed like shit today. I was like, damn, that's crazy. I was looking this shit up. And one of the first things, first of all, LVMH has fucking goated SEO shit. Like, if you're trying to look up any of like the keywords to look up like bad things about people, which I'm very well versed in, none of them work on LVMH. It'll just be like 50 like LVMH our story kind of things, and like it's there's like a few articles that like are in every kind of like negative keyword that you'll search for, but you really have to like go kind of deep and dig for some of this stuff. Not this though. Bloomberg, I think it was like a couple months ago, put out this story that so a lot of the Loro Piana, they use a lot of wool, and what's the animal called?
Vicuña.
A beautiful, but rare little camelid.
Peru.
In the mountains of Peru. They're paying basically nothing for this stuff.
Yeah.
And in fact, as Loro Piana's prices have like skyrocketed in recent years, the amount of money that's going to the people who actually like get this fucking wool for them, or what? I mean, it's wool, right? Even if it's not a sheep, it's all wool.
It's all wool to me.
I feel like they'd have different names for it, but I guess it's all wool. Like those guys are getting paid less and less and less until it's like basically nothing. I mean, I think it's really indicative. Like they were able to trace this particular supply chain thing.
Yeah.
Which of course, LVMH is like, we're gonna change all this. Never gonna fucking happen. But the reality is, and I knew a little bit about this stuff prior to doing some of the research for this episode, but I really cement home like how widespread this is. So much of this stuff is like all of the like artisan, the maison, all the shit that they're like, we're making this in like someone's beautiful mansion in fucking France. It is fucking fake. Like, it is so fucking fake, especially the made in Italy stuff. The reality is, with a lot of the shit that's made in Italy to begin with, it's like Dior, for example.
Yeah.
It's like most of it's made in Italy. Some of it's made in France. Most of it's made in Italy. You think like, oh, made in Italy. So like you're thinking of like some weird like long-necked thin woman in like a Dior dress sewing cross-legged like this, like stitch by stitch by
like
stitch.
Like couture or something.
Couture, exactly. Sorry, that was actually must have been really grating to hear. No. So a lot of that stuff is made, yes, by individual artisans. And you would be calling them individual artisans if you were just using like the most like corporate way to talk about them. The reality is they're called like home workers in Italy. And so they'll have like these factories or these manufacturers or like these companies that like Christian Dior it's like a contractor for Christian Dior subcontracts the work out to themselves. Yeah. So like subcontractors of a subcontractor. These are like Italian, like 55-year-old Italian women in apartments they can't afford, sewing Christian Dior dresses for like 24 euros all told that are selling for like $10,000 or whatever. I mean, it's absurd.
They call this what, home work?
Home work, yeah. And so actually, I couldn't find, it looks like, I was reading the New York Times article from like, I think like 8 years ago about just homework in Italy in general. And the Italian government, that could have changed in the intervening years. The Italian government hasn't really done a survey about how many home workers in Italy since like the early 70s. At that point, there was 1 million. At this point, who knows? They say there's significantly less, but they're not registered with the government at all.
But like, why are the factories doing this?
So, as one can read in any book that actually like details like some of the economic enterprises of the mafia in Italy, like manufacturing in Italy is just like completely overrun by mafias. Like the traditional like Cosa Nostra, all that kind of shit mafias, but then like also just like these like cartels that essentially like run like economic gangs. And like things there are, it's not so great.
No.
There are unions in Italy that like do set wages, which are, by the way, very fucking low for like factory work. But if you really want to get your costs down, and if you really want to get this stuff done at like a better profit margin, you actually have to do what are basically like 0-hour contracts that are unofficial, that are official in like a very, you know, legally flimsy category, with people who are just at their houses. And so like these are genuinely like people at home or in small workshops in garages who are given these like, you know, both fast fashion, medium style fashion, and like fucking luxury items like LVMH portfolio brands, and they just sew them at home. And they do this for like less than like, I think what the average fucking wage for like a French like garment worker is something like 12 euros. I mean, actually at the high end, these people are doing it for like 3 euros.
Which is why like so many French factories continue to get shut down.
Yes. Well, that's the other thing. So much of this stuff was made, and I mean, not just France, but like much of Europe once had like a very, you know, tech, really everywhere in the world had like big textile sectors that were like, that were working, that were proletarian jobs that like you could get, that those are like the jobs that you worked. That stuff, just like so many other industries, has just been completely blown up and scattered by companies like this, and to where they're just literally now being done by individuals. I mean, can you imagine a worker more atomized than that? Individuals entirely at their own house. And sometimes they'll work piecemeal and send like a piece off to somebody else, but sometimes they'll make the dress from fucking from nape to neck. I don't know what a nape is.
What's a neck?
Okay, well, from nape to hem of the skirt.
Well, you do you could do the nape to then the neckline.
From nape to nipple line. But that's not the only thing. So like you see like made in Italy. Like, yeah, it's made by some like lady in her fucking like shitty, you know, like squeegee ass floor apartment on like the 5th floor of some like, you know, sometimes electrified apartment building in like a fucking ghetto of like some southern Italian or northern Italian city.